Throughout medieval European history, one of the most interesting institutions was the Hanseatic League, a group of merchant towns who essentially monopolised trade over the Baltic Sea as well as dominating trade in the North Sea too. Despite how strange this arrangement of states and traders was, it isn't very well understood. So what exactly was the Hanseatic League and what happened to it? So as of the 13th century, sea trade across the North and Baltic Seas had existed for many centuries, but such trade was fraught with risks, notably from pirates and rough weather. As such, to minimise those risks, some trading towns along the southern Baltic shore formed a trading union. This allowed them to collectively bargain for lower tariffs, to travel in larger groups to ward off pirates, to monopolise trade in certain goods and deter any armies from conquering them. To join this union, a town had to meet two criteria. It had to be self-governing, although they could still swear fealty to a lord, a king or the Holy Roman Emperor, and it had to be a port town connected to the North or Baltic Seas. And together they would send representatives to a Grand Council. Here they would discuss trade policy, such as who to embargo and who to demand more concessions from. They would choose new members to admit or vote on who to kick out, but outside of this there was very little in the way of any centralised governance. Another thing to note is that the Hanseatic League didn't look like this. The states to which the cities owed fealty didn't have the same rights as the cities themselves, and in fact many noble rulers weren't keen on the League, since it made independently wealthy men who were loyal to profit and not them. Over the following centuries, the Hanseatic League grew in membership and won very important concessions. The most notable of these were in Novgorod, London, Bergen and Bruges, later Antwerp. Here they were able to avoid most tariffs and, to use a technical term, make VAT stacks. This worked for the rulers of these places like King Henry III of England, because it meant that his people could acquire luxury goods but not take the risks that came with ocean-bound trade. As you'll guess though, this state of affairs didn't last, and in the 15th century the League began to decline. So why? Well, the first reason was that other states started to build up their own navies, which the League struggled to compete with. Denmark, Norway and Sweden united briefly and soon reneged on their deals with the League. Poland and Lithuania united and was able to pry some of the towns out of the League as well. And Novgorod wanted its own slice of Baltic trade, whereas in the North Sea, England needed fleets if it was ever going to conquer France, which meant that it could protect and support its own merchants. And these things combined at the same time saw the merchants of the League lose a lot of money. Also, the collective benefits of no tariff soon became the collective responsibility of fighting wars. And the last issue was that the nature of trade changed, because regional trade soon lost out to global trade. And with that, the source of wealth changed, and much like their Italian equivalents to the south, they lost their position. Which is why, in the early 17th century, the League was dissolved. I hope you enjoyed this episode, with a special thanks to my patrons: James Bizanet, Kelly Moneymaker, Sky Chappelle, Kartoitska, Anthony Beckett, Rod D. Martin, Yuduan Wang, Marcus Arsner, YN Hockey, Alex Schwinn, AF Firefly, Captain Psydog, Spencer Lightfoot, Gustav Swan, The McWhopper, Shuenin, Marvin Cassow, Winston Kaywood, Spinning 3 Plates, Andy McGeehee, Kamoon Yoon, Calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard, Todd Short, Copper Tone, Maggie Patskowski, Words About Books Podcast, Jim Stromberg, Miss Izet, and Charles the First.